What's up everybody, it's Jay here, and today it is controversial video time. And that means that if you want to disagree with me, if you want to disagree with anybody else, you gotta remember to be respectful of each other, because otherwise, what's the point in arguing with somebody or like debating with somebody if you're just gonna be a dick? So today we are talking about, are all cis people transphobic? Recently, a YouTuber called Milo Stewart made a video about being a good ally, and in it said that all cis people are transphobic, all white people are racist, all able people are ableist, blah blah blah. Another YouTuber who I used to like at one point in time, but then he changed his content quite dramatically and I stopped liking him, Mr. Repsian, made a response to Milo Stewart's video. And I'm going to link to those videos down below. I agree with neither group 100%. I don't agree with either of them 100%. But the main thing that Mr. Repsian was focusing on in his video was the fact that Milo Stewart said that all cis people are transphobic, all white people are racist, all able-bodied people are ableist, etc., etc. That was the main thing that he focused on. And that's what I'm focusing on today. So, I'm just going to talk about the cis people and the transphobia part, because obviously as a white person, as an able-bodied person, and as not really fitting into any other kind of minority or marginalised group other than the trans community, I don't really have a right to talk about that kind of thing, and you're better off listening to a person of colour or a disabled person talk about their respective issues than listening to me apply trans logic to other communities. But I'm going to talk about the trans community. The biggest thing that I think that we should point out is that there is a big difference in my mind between something that would be a transphobic act and a transphobic person. So a transphobic act, in my mind, could be anything, really. It could be it's the transphobic action. So like, somebody misgendering you is a transphobic act. Somebody using your dead name is a transphobic act. Getting told that you have to use the bathrooms of your assigned gender is a transphobic act. Bathroom bills are transphobic acts. Stuff like that. The actual action that is taking place that negatively affects trans people and the trans community, that's a transphobic action. But what's a transphobic person? In my mind, just because somebody has done a transphobic act doesn't mean that they're necessarily transphobic. Some people do transphobic acts out of ignorance and not being educated and not knowing. I've seen a lot of people, like personally, among people my own age, my peer group, saying or doing transphobic things because they didn't realize it was transphobic. They didn't know that was going to harm anyone or hurt anybody or make anyone uncomfortable. They never set out to hurt anyone. They did it by accident. And when somebody said to them, hey, you can't really do that, you can't really say that, or you shouldn't really do that, they were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I really didn't mean to do anything wrong, you know? And I don't think you can call that person a transphobic person. I don't think you can call the person who makes an effort and listens when they're called out a transphobic person. Because in my mind, I feel like a transphobic person has to be someone who continually and purposefully does transphobic acts and ignores education and ignores trans people calling them out and makes no effort to educate themselves. I feel like in order to be a transphobic person, you have to be doing that. You have to be purposefully being transphobic. Whereas a lot of cis people are unintentionally transphobic because they don't know. It's as simple as that. They don't know. And while it's not the trans community's responsibility to educate cis people, we all know that cis people are not going to just up and of their own accord Google trans stuff. And even if they do go on Google isn't always a great resource. Sometimes you can find shitty stuff about trans people on the internet masquerading as positivity. And that's a big issue, but it's not something that we can really do anything about right now. My point is that there's a difference between ignorance in not knowing what you're saying, not knowing if what you're saying is transphobic, in just not having the knowledge, versus purposefully, repeatedly ignoring people calling you out and purposefully hurting people and doing transphobic things. There's a big difference between those two things. If, like for example, my best illustration of this would be, I came out to my parents, and my parents would sometimes say stuff that in my mind would be transphobic. I would consider those things to be transphobic. But I explain why it's transphobic to them, and they apologise, and they make an effort not to do or say things like that again. They're not transphobic people, but as cis people, they're not necessarily tuned in to what is and isn't transphobic in the same way I as a trans person would be. By comparison, there are teachers in the school that I go to that would say transphobic stuff, that would make transphobic comments, that would do transphobic things, and if you called them out on it, they wouldn't make any effort to amend their actions, they wouldn't make any effort to make up for what they'd done, they wouldn't make any effort to apologise. And those are totally different people, those are totally different things, there are totally different ways to be. And yes, we are all in Western society raised into this culture that is transphobic. You're taught from a very young age that girls equals people with vaginas, boys equals people with penises, etc., etc. You're taught from a very young age that gender roles exist and that men are supposed to be masculine and women are supposed to be feminine. And all of those things are instilled in us from a very young age. But that doesn't make a person transphobic. Just because they've been raised in a transphobic society and may have internalized transphobia and learned transphobia that they will have to make an active effort to unlearn, doesn't mean that they are a transphobic person. If they are a good person who is making the effort to not be transphobic, who isn't trying to hurt anyone, who accepts it when they're called out for doing something wrong, then that person is not transphobic. And that's how I feel. I think that Milo Stewart saying that all cis people are transphobic ignores the fact that transphobia kind of needs to have a little bit of malice. To be a transphobic person, you need to have that little bit of malice that means that you did it on purpose, that you aren't accidentally offending people. You're purposefully hurting people to be a transphobic person. Otherwise, you're just a person who said something transphobic and either didn't know it was offensive or when called out, like, amended the problem. So that's how I feel about all people being transphobic. And I also think it's important to note that trans people also have to unlearn transphobia. I've had to unlearn transphobia. The best allies that I know have had to unlearn transphobia. Other trans people have to unlearn transphobia. It's not like it's limited to being cis. Everyone has to unlearn transphobia. And that's a fact. So thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, the like button is down here. You can subscribe to me over there. The comment box, as usual, always open. Feel free to comment on what I've said. Give me your opinion. And, you know, I try to reply to every comment that I get because I don't get enough that it would be complicated for me to reply to all of them. But thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.